Ungrading isn't just a more humane practice, it is rooted in decades of research, consistently supported by child developmental psychologists as a needed shift in how we operate our classrooms. On page 4 of the Ungrading Handbook, you'll find a short list of studies that support this claim. Central to ungrading is the work of Dr. Ruth Butler. Butler has demonstrated through multiple studies the effect of motivation in grades. Her most famous study involved separating students into 3 groups. One group was assessed using a grade alone. Another group was given feedback alone, and another group was given grades and feedback. Consistently, students who were given grades alone had less motivation to continue learning and performed worse on subsequent tests. Students who were given grades and feedback were in the same situation. They were demotivated and performed worse on subsequent tests, including students who achieved high grades. Students who were given feedback alone performed the best and had massively higher motivation to learn. This work is backed up by decades of Butler's work. Dr. Hall P. Beck studies how students view school and their learning. The study linked surrounds a learning-oriented motivation and a grading-oriented motivation. The students who are learning-oriented are interested in learning for the sake of it because they're interested in it. They're intrinsically motivated. Students who are grading-oriented are seeking a high grade at the end of their work. Consistently, students who are grading-oriented, ironically, performed worse in assessment and were less motivated than students who were learning-oriented. The next study I think most educators would instantly notice and recognize in their own practice. Dr. Astrid Portheus looked at how report cards affect a student's motivation to succeed, and how this grade shaped future grades. Students who received a low grade at the end of the semester performed almost always the same or worse at the end of the year. Students who received a high grade always performed the same or worse, and were often exhibiting stress to maintain that grade. Overall, these semester grades decreased motivation and emotional well-being. The obvious question is, if giving a student a low grade makes them less likely to succeed, and our goal is to help students learn more, is this a practice that's worth continuing? Dr. Anne Sophia Hayek found the negative impact of grading extends to group learning and cooperation. Students who were graded in group work consistently contributed less to group projects. They were also more likely to exhibit stress. Students who were not graded performed better in group tasks. Hayek concluded that grades are counterproductive to cooperation in the classroom. And for those who believe grades are needed for students to take learning seriously, Dr. Adeline Moeller issued a small study demonstrating that students who knew that a test was not graded performed the exact same as when they knew a test was graded. Finally, Dr. Caroline Puffrey furthered the studies of Dr. Ruth Butler on task avoidance due to grades. Again, she found that students who were graded were less inclined to continue to be motivated to learn. A low grade was consistently correlated with less achievement and motivation to succeed. In our handbook, you will find a link to our research page on our website, which we consistently update with research supporting these claims. Further, on the following page, you'll find grading adjacent research. Although these studies don't directly deal with grading, the control systems of our classroom are often detrimental to student learning and well-being, and we face a crisis of anxiety, a lack of autonomy, and a need for experiential, purpose-based learning. In addition, gradeless learning is part of a greater, overarching liberatory pedagogy. When we grade, we rank and file students, and we in turn are judging them. In many, and arguably most schools, grades are tied to behavior, and they're also tied within the content. Students are being assessed in a whitewashed, white-centric curriculum. We've listed resources pertaining to racism, classism, and grades, and how gradeless learning is part of the continuing narrative and equitable practice.